it's been absolutely great having you here in Dudley for our Prophetic Seers Conference. I've just loved having you around, and it's great about your news that you get married next year.
Yes, I'm engaged.
That is just so good, and I'm sure the guys and girls will be just also happy for you. Some of the things that you've been sharing have really stirred me, and I've just been so blessed. And it's been a prophetic conference, and people would expect for prophecy often to be in the arena of church or in church life, but you seem to have broken all those boundaries.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't mean broken the boundaries, I mean you've extended the boundaries, and you've been using the prophetic anointing in so many other ways, and especially in your locality. Could you tell us something about that prophetic lifestyle outside of the church?
Yeah, I mean, when I grew up in the church, we always had prophecy. So from the time I was little, my parents would say, "What are you hearing from God?" So I never had a time where all of a sudden the gift of prophecy came to my life. It just was always there in the community. So I never felt specially gifted. I just felt like a Christian. And when I was older, I realized that a lot of the people who prophesy, who were prophets or who were more prophetically gifted, that they always gave people words like, "You're going to work in this position of the church. You're going to give it this position of the church. You're going to be the worshiper. You're going to be a pastor. You're going to be..." But no one ever talked to the business people, the entertainers, the educators, the politicians.
Interesting.
And so as I was growing up, I thought, there's something missing here. Like, I feel like I'm not called just to ministry. Like, I'm called, and I would tell people, I feel called to work on video games and to work and write stories, and they would look at me like I was crazy. Like, you're anointed. Why would you ever do that?
Yeah. Are you still a Christian? They might have said.
Exactly. They're like, are you losing part? Wow, that's worldly and secular. You'll one day come back to the fullness. And I thought, why is this a second-class citizen to do something else that carries the full kingdom of who Jesus was into the world somewhere? And a lot of it's because our prototypes for that are mostly in the Old Testament, although Paul did have a tent-making business, but it was to support his ministry. But we have Daniel and Esther and Joseph, who are all end-time pictures of what it's going to be like to serve in the secular society and be a deliverance for the people. And so they both provide for their people, but they also help the nation go forward and do its purpose. And so I think that part was like something I was really awakened to young. They were some of my early heroes. And so for me, I'm like looking at, I work in Hollywood. I have a church in kind of the entertainment industry, and our people are getting words on their sets. They're getting healing prayer for their directors and producers, other actors. They're working in the music industry. They're seeing the presence of God come powerfully on, on major tours. And so we're seeing like people who are going into, who are athletes, who are seeing major fruit, but it's not just the fruit of evangelism. It's like in church, when you go to church, you don't just have evangelism, you have everything. And the entertainment industry, when you go there as a kingdom-minded person, you should expect the full maturity of who you are to manifest there, not just for the sake of people knowing Jesus, but for people maturing and coming to the best atmosphere they can while they're with you.
So you're talking about carrying the influence of the presence of God in whatever area of gifting and skill and working out your life call that God has placed you in, as you say, like those Old Testament. So now you said you're working in Hollywood. Just tell us either maybe one or two stories or something about what that's like.
I mean, Hollywood's...
You mean those big letters on a mountain
Yeah, exactly.
somewhere?
The big letters on the mountain. I used to live right by the sign. Hollywood is a very unique city because it's the hub of all the entertainment industry, and God sent us there because he said, I want to change culture from the culture capital of the world. And we have the fashion industry there, the music industry there, the athletic industry there, of course, film and television. We have the video game industry there. And it's not that it's everywhere in one's primary space, but everyone's there, and everyone comes through there for some reason, modeling and fashion and theater. So when you think of that, it's like some of the things that we're called to do is prepare entertainers to go in and be the ones who train what love looks like in a generation. Be the ones who, I mean, we have fashion designers who their vision is to create the identity of what young people would wear in our generation, and not let everyone else create the identity, but they want to create the identity through clothing, because clothing is, in the Old Testament was so powerful what people would wear, and the New Testament was mentioned many times. And so, I mean, God cares about what we adorn ourselves with, how we design things, how we, and so all of those are, I mean, he was the creator, so we're creators also. We get to co-create. So in the midst of that, in Hollywood, we've had some pretty phenomenal, crazy things happen. We've had a lot of healings on, like, especially sets, and we've had a lot of prophetic words to directors, producers, that kind of thing. But
so you mean just in the ordinary day-to-day work in Hollywood, people that come to your church and you're connected with, they just pray for people who aren't Christians. And
yeah, and they were told for years before we got there, and be really careful being a Christian overtly, like be really careful telling people you would pray for them, because a lot of the models that have been out in California for prayer and for prophecy, and in the church at large, have been very legalistic. And so we've just said, be who you are, love on them, and if it feels natural to pray for them, pray for them.
Yeah.
So we had one lady who's a costumer on a show, and so she prays with the main actress on the show, who's a Christian also.
Yes.
They do a little prayer meeting every morning, just off to the side, while they're waiting for everyone to come in, because Hollywood, everyone's notoriously late. And so the director came in, and she was hurting in her back so bad that she said, I can't do the filming today, and I'm going to lose the studio $60,000 to $70,000 just for the next 4 hours in our little show. That's not that much money for a show like that, but it's the whole location set fee. Yeah. So she's like, they're going to be so mad at me because this has happened before. And so they both looked at her and they said, well, we've been praying over here. Can we just pray for you? And she's like, okay, and walks off, not knowing they wanted to pray for her right then. Yeah. So they both went and hunted her down and said, hey, we don't want to be weird, but can we put our hands on you and just pray for you real fast? And she's like, okay, real fast. And so he just said, God, would you just release healing on her back and comfort to her? And that's it. And they walked away from her. And she just kept going on in the day as normal, but she wouldn't talk to them or anything because she was testing it all day. Because it was completely better right then, but she didn't want to tell them because she didn't believe in Jesus. So she was completely freaked out. So by the end of the day, she comes to him and says, whatever you did to me worked. And I want to know what happened to me. How did you do that? I go to a chiropractor all the time. I've never felt so adjusted. And she was fine from that point on. So eventually she got saved. But God, started it there.